All right, I saw a little thing flash on my screen, so
Alrighty. Well, welcome to ScoutByte. Thank you, Doug Bilderback, for offering to do this virtual crossover for us. And I am handing it over. And if you guys want to ask questions in the chat, I'll make sure that Doug gets those.
all righty. Or just pop in with a question. It's going to be kind of an open discussion type conversation here. So my name is Doug Bilderback. I am the Cub Master of PAC 39 and the committee chair of Troop 39. Obviously with the same chartered organ, we are in Malpe, so kind of just barely over the King line. So a couple agenda items tonight. First one is I want to talk a little bit about what does the Guide to Safe Scouting say for virtual requirements and our limitations. We'll go through a little bit of a case study of what our unit is working on putting together. Not to say that it is the technically perfect answer. There may be other ideas and options out there, and I would love to hear what you guys are doing because maybe I can enhance mine as well. And then just have an open conversation to other ideas and suggestions. So first of all, and I've had some conversations with council and kind of gotten the best, clearest answer of a muddy water that I can get. So real-time live meetings, wonderfully, perfectly acceptable, whether that's Zoom, GoToMeeting, Teams, whatever you guys choose to do. But recording and publishing that meeting, that's where we break down, and we're not allowed to do that because we have youth in the recording. If it was a recording of only adults like this meeting here, perfectly fine because we're all over 18, there's no youth involved. It's when you have, you know, live or pictorial representations of our youth that's where our breakdown goes. However, what we are allowed to do is pre-record and play that recording on the Zoom meeting. The main takeaway on that, the guiding principle, is that there's no permanent access to a likeness of a youth. So, you know, John Q. Public can't come in and see little Timmy Tiger and you know, see him on the recording. So that's where, you know, I've wanted to put stuff up on, you know, say YouTube or something where people can go and access it, can't do that. So the main public part of the presentation has to be, you know, the real-time live meeting, the Zoom kind of thing, with no recording of it. So what is important in a virtual ceremony? And this is somewhat my opinion, but I think it's pretty widespread. So first of all, we got to recognize our youth. We are here to, in a crossover, you know, recognizing the achievements of our arrows, weeb twos, whatever you want to call them, and their time in the pack. We're saying goodbye as a pack, and then we're saying hello to troops. So, you know, I know in our case, our troop and our pack are the same chartered org, so pretty much all the boys are just moving to the same unit. What I know in other cases where the pack may be affiliated with 2 or 3 troops and the kids are going scattered a little bit in those directions, or you may have one troop pulling from a couple packs. The numbers may vary there, but in all cases, we're, you know, from a pack perspective, we're saying goodbye, and from the troop perspective, we're welcoming them in. And as much as possible, we want to maintain a sense of tradition. And that, of course, what tradition means in your units and what you've done in the past, you know, may be different than what we've done. We all have kind of our ceremonies that we do. Some people get the OA to come down and do the presentation. We've had a script that we've used for years, kind of telling a narrative story of the trail through the Cub Scouting period, and then kind of a commissioning into the troop. And I as Cub Master am passing off responsibility of my arrows to the senior patrol leader. And so it's me and the senior patrol leader kind of, giving them the charge. So there's always some trade-offs when we're in the virtual environment. Of course, some of the cons is we need adaptations for video content. Those could be things like lighting, audio. So for instance, in our ceremony, we have always traditionally brought, we've dimmed the lights, had the arrows stand in the back of the room. They put their neckerchiefs over their eyes, so they're somewhat blindfolded. You can't really fully blindfold them. And we kind of lead them up to the front. That doesn't work well on video, whether it's Zoom or pre-recorded. You want to have better lighting there. You got to make some accommodations for audio pickup. Of course, then we also have to maintain social distancing. So I probably shouldn't have all of my arrows, one arm in front of the guy in front of them, and then the first guy whose arm on their den leader's shoulder to make their way up. We want to have, 6 feet of distance. So you're going to have to think through your plans in that regard. However, if we're doing some kind of pre-recorded thing, there's the opportunity to pause the recording, slice out, where somebody really fumbles and say, hey, let's go back and reread the script again, and you can make a few edits like that. Or you could just simply say, where it's taking a long time, speed up the video. If you've got a little bit of a video editor, you can make a little bit of those kind of maturations. I use a free one that I get online that I've done some of this stuff with in the past. And just all I'm doing is slicing snippets and compiling them together. And sometimes I'll speed things up if I think that, the little transition's going too slow. The other thing is I can record this at different times to accommodate people's schedule. So I can have my crossover bridge up for a day or so at my community center because there's not much else going on there. Your locations may vary on that, but maybe there's a break room at the church you meet at or something of the sort where you can, set something up, and then you can have people come in at different times. So you're always socially distanced. You're very, it's the one youth member and, maybe one scout leader in addition to their family taking them through. So let's talk a little bit about case study of what we're doing. So again, we're going to use our traditional script, and because that was a lot of it is just me telling the charge to the Cubs and kind of doing a narration. So I'll record that just on my own at the community center with our full backdrop going up, because we have a stage where our bridge is set up on so everybody can kind of see it. And then we're going to have staggered times where each youth comes in. I'll record them. So it'll be myself, it'll be the scoutmaster there, the senior patrol leader, well, actually the assistant senior patrol leader, who happens to be the scoutmaster's son. So we're keeping our family units down. And then my oldest. So again, family units are being minimized, trying to stay within, the healthy Washington guidelines here. But we have then a couple youth from the unit to welcome them in. So again, we'll never have more than 3 families in our community center at one time. And then we're going to, I'll have a slideshow where we, something we've always done, where, it's the years of history of those boys, because we're boy only unit still in our pack. And in one case, we got a kid who transferred in from another pack. I'm going to get pictures of his early time in his previous unit and play those and montage that in. So we'll have all of this kind of pre-recorded. And then on our live call, we'll have, some basic welcome. Then I'll play kind of this whole pre-recorded snippet thing together. So probably 15, 20 minutes kind of going through the whole ceremony, piece it together. It will look kind of like it, they were sitting in the community center in their little den lines. And then we can open up the floor on the Zoom call to all the members of the pack, all the members of the troop, just kind of like we would on a normal meeting, but we're just all in little boxes like the Brady Bunch are. And that's kind of how we're going to be putting together our virtual crossover. So with that, are there questions? What are you guys looking at putting together for your units? Do you think I missed something?
So Doug, I'm sorry if I missed what you said, but
yeah.
I know in our unit, after they do the crossover, there's scouts, the scouts BSA, the older scouts of the troop that they're moving into, are usually, in a non-COVID time, are there with a neckerchief for them. Obviously, that's not going to happen this year. So how are you doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I did not cover that. And we actually were talking about that Monday night at our Key 3. And what we're planning on doing is putting the different parts in like a gallon zippy bag. Mm-hmm. And then the scoutmaster can hand that to, or the senior patrol leader actually can hand that to mom or dad. And then mom or dad can put that on the cub or the new scout. So they're still getting there. In our case, it's a red, the red BSA necker that they come in on. It's all right there. They're fully greeted, but everything is separated. It's, been isolated for a while. So any COVID would have dissipated over a week or two. And, we're ready to go in that regard. Does that make sense?
It does. My other question that I had is how do you address the photo op? Like, every mom wants a picture of her little boy or girl.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why, we have that time where it's just the parent, and the youth, the Cub Master, Scout Master, a couple members of the troop. And so we could put a photo op together. We could, hey, maybe instead of standing right up close to the stage, you're standing a little further back away to get everybody in, because we're trying to keep people a little bit blocked apart.
Right.
But then, when they're going over the bridge, hey, mom, get right up there and take the picture, right? Or we're recording this. If you want to, we can do the one pass recording over, and then we can do take two. Go stand up on the middle of the bridge and take a picture. You've got a lot of opportunities there to do that kind of thing. I mean, it's really common in our, practice, it's over the years, we're just, running them, getting 8 kids going across. And then after everything's said and done, mom or dad comes back up with the cub. They're standing on the bridge, taking a picture, and so on. The other thing I realized that I didn't say in here, but we always do, is all of our kids sign the bridge.
Yeah, we do too.
So, and there's actually some blocks on there where there's some intentional space, next to my oldest. So my youngest can sign next to his brother.
Oh, that's a neat idea.
So, where we kind of know, hey, we've got brothers coming through, make some space around there in future years. So the younger one, because otherwise, we're not, regimenting where it's signed. It's just kind of wherever you want, but leave a little bit of space for brother to come in and sign their name and track it over the years.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
I think that was one of my questions. I mean, with the troop meeting, we have one, by the way, AOL meeting R1 on the other side of the bridge. The sign, I don't understand. Can I hear more about the sign or signs?
Sure. Yeah, so we just have a bridge. It's actually in 3 parts, for storage purposes. So a couple of steps on either side, and then it just a bridge piece that's arched going over, and then we just hand them a Sharpie and they just write their name on the back side of the bridge, kind of one of the support structures or on the back side of the stairs. So that way, when they want to look at it, there's a kind of the front side that's presented to the audience. It's got the Cub Scout logo and the Boy Scout logo on either side. But then on the back side, you just see it graffitied almost with years worth of signatures on there.
Okay, I'll need to ask George. I don't remember anybody signing the bridge in years past, but it could have happened. Okay, thank you.
You can always start.
Yeah, you can always start.
Yeah,
I mean, our bridge in its current iteration is only 4 or 5 years old. So our Scoutmaster and our assistant Scoutmaster, when their sons crossed over from the pack to the troop, the old bridge we had was years old and in bad shape. They're kind of construction oriented guys. They're like, oh, let's build a new bridge. So they did, and it's pretty cool. And so yeah, I think the old bridge had that tradition as well, but they, we established that. And the nice thing is we've seen youth in our unit who've come from other units because of moves and so on, move from northern Snohomish County down to southern Snohomish County or what have you. They've gone and gotten their old crossover bridge from the bridge that they crossed over on at their Eagle ceremony. And so up on their stage as they do their Eagle ceremony, they have their bridge there, kind of showing parts of their scouting history. And so, we're kind of looking forward to seeing that, play out with some of with our younger guys as they're kind of now getting close to that age of those who've used that bridge, getting their Eagle. So.
Well, thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
what about outside? Did you address outside? Because we've traditionally had ours, except for last year, outside. And that kind of has a whole different set of rules with it.
Yeah, you can certainly do it outside. With the Healthy Washington, I don't know if you can see that here, the rules are getting a little more open for outside stuff. If you're trying to do anything on the virtual, and that was kind of what the purpose of this call was the virtual crossover, outside is a challenge for 3 reasons: weather, lighting, and audio. In terms of, if you're doing it in the evening, obviously, how are you going to light the thing? If you're doing it in the middle of the day, on a weekend or something, not such a big deal, assuming it's a sunny day. But then you also have to, make those plans for inclement weather. Do you have a pop-up, an awning big enough to cover your crossover bridge? And then the other thing is, you typically are going to have a camera back, a fair amount of way to kind of capture everything on the virtual. How are you then going to have those who are speaking mic'd up so that they can be picked up? Because when you're outside, at least the little mic on, my camera up here isn't that great and would pick up a lot of ambient noise, cars going by our community center in the backyard, those kind of things. And, you know, how are you going to overcome that technical challenge? If you come up with, you know, if you've got, you know, somebody who's got lapel mics and, you know, some kind of board to hook all that stuff up onto, great. You know, without that, my concern is, and it's just my concern, people aren't going to hear what's being said. You know, they'll see it, but they won't be able to hear it.
My take on doing it outdoors is because it's outdoors, you don't need to be quite as, that's not the right wording, but quite as strict as if you were indoors, right? I mean, it's a little easier to do the social distancing with everybody there, right?
Yeah.
That's my idea, is that not beyond the AOLs and the receiving pack troops,
Right.
but that way
and
it is they're with their buddies, they're bridging over to their new buddies, and it's kind of a little more meaningful that way than showing up, walking across a bridge with your family watching. And
right. And
Yeah.
and with that scenario, you wouldn't necessarily need to record it and watch it at a meeting at another time.
well, and it's the production quality. It doesn't need to, you could still do that. It just doesn't need to be as,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The idea is still to give the experience to the younger kids. This is what bridging is, and you know, but it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be this full up 20-minute
Professional.
production.
Yeah.
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 I
So
mean, one of the things that we're talking about, I mean, we haven't 100%, you know, locked ourselves into this solution. And we only have 3 arrows crossing over this year. My arrow den is a little smaller in size. And because of that, within, you know, if we only bring in the Scoutmaster and the ASPL, that's 4 family units. We can have them all in the community center because our capacity is 250 in there. So 25%, yeah, we're way down below that. And as we joked, you know, if we say a prayer, is that a worship service? But
That's like
you know,
the dance exercise classes versus the dancing at weddings are prohibited, but you can dance.
I know, it's like we have jazzercise at the community center, that's permitted. So, you know, it's a fine line of what's technical, what's the spirit of the rules, and a scout is obedient to the laws, right, and to the directions passed down. So it's always a, you know, a fine point. But I'm trying to sound out what people's comfort levels are. You know, myself and the Scoutmaster and our families, the 2 families there are comfortable being all 4. I'll find out tomorrow night at our den meeting, you know, the comfort level of the other 2. So we may just end up running all of them through back to back and just kind of, you stand in this corner, you stand in that corner, but we're all kind of there and doing our thing. So we still will, you know, maintain some good social distancing, but we're still a little more visually and optically there and can interact a little bit better.
Crystal, you had commented about being outdoors, but I wasn't sure. Are you thinking of having everybody outdoors at the crossover ceremony, or just the arrows and their families and the trooper troops that they're going to at the outdoor ceremony, and then somebody recording it for the
latter? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it'll be, I'm going to call it split, where you've got the affected parties there live, but everybody else is just watching it from the comfort of their own home.
I like the recording it and cutting it, editing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like you said, the challenge of the audio is, I think, the only one. Oh, and by the way, we will have somebody who's going to be there to photograph. My friend owes me, right? She owes me a lot. We've been paying her throughout COVID, and she was our nanny. So I said, would you mind coming and being, she's got a nice camera, so would you mind being socially distanced and taking pictures for everybody? Because normally you have the rest of the pack there to take pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got one parent now at the troop level that their youngest is, crossed over 2 years ago. But I don't think I've ever seen her not with a big camera hanging around her neck, in the 6 years I've known them, Lisa's always got her camera and, always takes great pictures because that's her thing. And, so there's always been, and she can stand in the back, but, we're like, nope, you don't need to be there this year. So I think that the biggest thing is, frankly, is going to be dealing with, hey, grandma's in, some other state, she can't come, the Zoom thing, the time doesn't work for grandma's, can we record it? And so grandma can watch it later. Sorry, that's where the Guide to Safe Scouting kind of puts us, in a bit of a handcuff situation. So not to say I can't
Can you
stop
cut out the
somebody.
one kid though, since you have to do post-production editing anyway, could you cut out the one kid at a time, just the crossing part, so that they could have their little clip?
There's nothing stopping.
If there's nobody else in the background.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping the parent, who's there from recording it on their cell phone, just like at any other PAC meeting, right? What's the stop? Hey, my kid's, making wolf this meeting, and so here's the little ceremony where little Johnny, little Susie's getting her wolf patch, and mom recording it and sending it to grandma. Right? I can't stop that. I can't. But yeah, the content, the idea here is that it's not publicly available on the internet for just anybody to come to and access. Other questions? Anything I missed?
That was really helpful for me. We have 5 kids, 5 AOLs, and I think they're going to go to different troops, but this isn't really related to virtual crossovers necessarily, but what do you suggest when you've got one kid who might not even earn the rank and maybe 2 who aren't crossing? I mean, do you just do it? I've never had that before where kids didn't cross or didn't earn rank. So what to do?
Well, see, what we've done is, again, this is an interesting distinction here. So traditionally, before the crossover ceremony, and I didn't even think about it until you said something right here, we kind of have the awards portion of the PAC meeting, hand out all the awards that have been earned in the last month. And that's where, we present the kids with their actual AOL patch, and so on. And then the crossover, is independent of them earning the actual rank Arrow of Light. It's more of the crossover is goodbye to the PAC, hello to the troop.
I'm gonna add on to that. There is no requirement to actually get your AOL to complete your AOL in order to join Scout, a troop.
Yeah.
You can
Right.
join
Yeah, I know that. I think that the scout in question who's not going to earn his rank probably will not cross as well. So he may not even come. But
yeah.
But he still could cross over because just like Doug said, it's really just leaving the PAC going to the troop.
Yeah, the one difference between an Arrow, somebody who's completed their Arrow of Light and someone who's not completed their Arrow of Light, maybe because they were never even in Cub Scouts, going into the troop is the age requirement. So if you have your AOL, you can join the troop at 10 and a half. If not, you have to be 11. And we're actually waiting on our crossover because I have one boy in my pack who turns 10 and a half next month. So we're very carefully waiting because normally we've done it in January, partially so they can go on a traditional February outing, which we couldn't do this year. And we're like, oh, well, we want them all to cross over at the same time. Lucas, we had to wait for Lucas, so that's fine. And, you know, in terms of going to different units, we had one boy, was it last year? Yeah, I guess it was last year. I guess Orion was last year, who moved about a month before crossover. So for a month, they came down from Whidbey Island, I think is where they moved to our meetings, so he could finish up the last thing he needed to earn his Arrow of Light. And then he crossed over with all of his peers, and we lent him our red, a red neckerchief for the day. And then at the end of that, so he was, just like everybody else. And then he, gave me back the borrowed neckerchief because their unit uses a different color, has a different, neckerchief design than what ours does. So, he then, when they crossed, that unit had kids cross over, he crossed into that unit, or at least that's what the plan was. I haven't checked because that was right as COVID was hitting. So I don't know what happened to that poor kid, to be honest. I should go ask and talk to his dad. It's been a year. What they ended up doing. Kind of curious now that you say that.
We often have kids go to multiple troops, and we've had kids from other packs join us for our crossover if they're crossing into one of the troops that our kids are crossing into.
Right.
So we've handled that part of it before. I've just never had somebody who didn't earn rank and wasn't crossing.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we separate the rank and the crossover portion. I mean, it's 10-minute difference in the meeting, but it's kind of separate sections. And I haven't seen a kid cross over and not make rank, but yeah, theoretically.
Right. Okay, well, we'll figure that out. I just have to talk to the parents and see how they want to handle it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he'll make rank, maybe somehow.
Yeah, it depends how far away they are. I mean, if they've done nothing, it's pretty hard. If they're kind of close, I've got one kid who's a little bit lagging, and I'm hoping tonight to kind of, hey, let's get those last couple things knocked off. So next meeting in 2 weeks for us, we can do that final thing as a group, and then we're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's missed a bunch of meetings, and then it's hard to catch up, especially as Arrow of Light. I think you can catch up easier with the lower ranks. But
yeah.
Anyway, and then I guess the other question is, would you mind sharing your ceremony? We've always had the AOL come, or excuse me, the OA come.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Do theirs, and I know there's changed, and we did 1 year of the new ceremony, and it was different. But
let me see if I can find it here. It may be on my external drive, which is, oh, actually, I think it is plugged into this machine.
I'll just put my email in the chat, and if you find it and don't mind sending it, that'd be great.
Yeah, let me where's the chat box here? Okay, I'm not seeing the chat box up here on Zoom. More, there it is, chat. It's hiding on me. All right. Copy. Let me just open up Notepad here fast. Oh, got another one here. All right, absolutely. I'll find it. I need to find it anyhow. It's just a Word document. It's kind of an amalgamation of a couple of the ceremonies you can find online. We just kind of stitched them together.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. I just thought if you had one that works, I might as well
Yeah,
borrow it.
we've used it for, I think the first year I was in the pack, we used a different ceremony. It was kind of akin to this one. And we stitched it together, and we've made a couple tweaks over time, just kind of, I should actually, I think again, my binder, I've got last year's where I had a couple notes penned in the margins, have somebody else do this part or that kind of thing. Just kind of, you realize, hey, I'm stumbling over these words. Tweak the script a tad, but yeah, I mean, what I've done is literally, we have an arrow of light that's got, you put the candles in, that kind of goes over, for each of the rays on the patch. So I don't have one on my uniform. My kids is somewhere else. No. Here, where you've got all the little things coming up, the rays of sun. And then we just kind of light the candles as things, as the script calls for it. So it's always an interesting tension of, how elaborate do you have your ceremony versus the attention span of lions and tigers, right? Because you got to be mindful. I'm doing this at one level for 5th graders. Their attention span is not that bad. The 4th graders are there going, that's me next year. These 1st graders sitting down there in kindergarten now, they're like, la, 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 this means nothing to me. And so typically what I've done in the last number of years is I've actually, when we've gotten to this part, I've sent all the kids back to their parents. I'm like, you know what? I'm not trying to maintain any resemblance of den lines and kids sitting down. It's, have them sit with mom or dad or grandma or whomever, and it controls the wiggles a lot better. So I'll find
we've always
that.
done that as well.
I'll find that and send it out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think my biggest disappointment is I can't really do cake.
Right. Same.
We've always had cake afterwards. It's just Costco sheet cake, but I want cake, and I'm not doing that for 4 families. So, but
You can get really nice individual cupcakes at Trophy Cupcakes. I don't know if you've had any from them before. My son's baseball team, they come individually wrapped in these amazingly wasteful boxes, but they're kind of cool. And you can get them custom decorated,
yeah. And this year it's probably going to work out just fine because one of my arrows is gluten and dairy free. So it's like getting all the stuff to, accommodate that gets a little bit more challenging. So just as easy not to do it in this year. But all righty. I think we're about at time here.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for putting this on.
Yeah.
I know I got a lot more out of it than, not that I expected, but I mean, there were ideas that I didn't even think about. So thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
So everybody, like I said, this was recorded. I am ending the recording now.